is driving and talking, but it's because usually when I'm driving, my phone picks up all the noise from like my car on the road, so it's hard to hear me unless I'm like screaming. But I noticed that whenever I do some of my walking videos, most of the times I have my headphones on, and it picks up the noise that's coming from my headphones, like the mic. So I'm trying it today. Hopefully, hopefully I can be heard well, and it's not picking up too much noise from my surroundings. But okay, why am I here? So I want to talk about one corner of Christian theology. Hi, if you don't know me, welcome to our little room on the clubhouse of YouTube. This is Chimsology. I am Chimso. Here we like to use philosophy to enjoy life a little bit better and to make life better for other people. Topics that we have been circling around are Christian theology, I always forget, economics, business and finance, culture and identity, science and metaphysics, and relationships, which honestly is just life. But the unique thing about it is the perspective that I take, which is a philosophical first perspective on these things. Excuse me. Today, I need to add some time to this thing. Okay, I needed to add time to my YouTube, a 30-minute time limit on YouTube, so I'm going to be recording. I needed to add more. Today I want to talk about a specific subset of Christian theology. So I don't know if I've done a video explaining like my journey being a Christian. I mean, that video could be 3 hours long because there's just so many things to talk about. But essentially, last year I had discovered Christian mysticism. Now, I had already been experiencing Christian mysticism, and I know mysticism might like bring up a lot of things in people's mind. When I talk about Christian mysticism, I'm talking about the tradition that comes out of the monastic and ascetical life from the apostolic churches, Catholicism, Orthodoxy, not Christian mysticism that is trying to apply New Age beliefs to Christianity and kind of like synchronize those two. I do think there's an aspect of truth in it, as there's an aspect of truth in everything that people that are trying to do New Age Christian mysticism are acknowledging. I also think it may be sort of a reaction to the deep scholastic roots of Christianity, and people not feeling like there's enough experience and mystery and wonder within Christianity, and seeing that in other traditions and trying to bring it in. I would say if you want to do that, just become Pentecostal. Just become Pentecostal. But yeah, there's just a lot of different things. Anyways, focus. So I came across mysticism, one, just based off of my own personal experience in my relationship with God. I would say I came across it as like a realization that there is a historical tradition for the way that I have experienced God and related with God throughout my whole life. But I specifically came across it because I was learning about the different like denominations of Christianity. Came across Orthodoxy at some point. Some of the questions that I was asking, I saw like the same questions and conclusions I was coming to. I saw the same questions and conclusions were being come to by people in this tradition called Christian mysticism. And I was like I felt a home in it. I was like, yes, this is what it is. This is what Christianity is, or this is how I have experienced my faith. I didn't know there was a tradition for it. So yesterday I went on a chat deep dive. I'm realizing today I was really sad yesterday because I spent the whole day in bed, literally rotting, like watching YouTube and on ChatGPT. I was sad. I'm yet to understand why exactly I was sad, but that's neither here nor there for this discussion. I went on a chat deep dive because a few days before I had just searched up what the Orthodox understanding of heaven and hell is. If you don't know, like, encountering Christian mysticism has led me to explore and be curious about the Orthodox Church. And so out of all of the major denominations that there are right now, I am most aligned with Orthodoxy, whether that is Eastern Orthodoxy or Oriental Orthodoxy. I would probably say Eastern, just because they do have some of that like philosophical, systematic leaning when they're explaining things. Growing up in Western society, I relate to that. But either one of the orthodoxies, I am like really aligned with. And because of that, like when I'm looking for not answers, but like understandings of different things, I tend to go to the Orthodox Church first. So I was looking at what they believed about heaven and hell, because that's kind of just been like a really big question for me. Hell specifically has been a really big question for me over the past 2 years, and I kind of landed at a place that I am comfortable with. I'm not gonna go into it now because it may be a little bit controversial, maybe in a different video, but I was looking that up, and then I started going on it. So I started it a couple days ago. Yesterday I continued it, and I went on this whole deep dive about the things that people prioritize when we're talking about like different theological or philosophical concepts, what they're trying to preserve, what are their priors, primitives, premises, all the same thing. Basically, where do they start as they're building an argument? What is the foundation that they're using to build their argument, and make a conclusion that they may not be saying out loud, or that they may not be aware that they are using as a foundation. And I was doing all these things, then major early Christian theologians were coming up, and the ones that were aligned with my perspective were Isaac from Syria, Gregory, I don't remember where he's from, there's a lot of Gregorys, Gregory from Nyssa, and there was another one, Maximus the Confessor, I think that's what his name is. Those were the major ones that came up that I agree with. And Gregory and Maximus were more systematic and like philosophical in their formulation, whereas Isaac was more experiential in his and more mystical in his formulations. And I think that's because he comes from the Oriental stream. Before like all the splits happened, he comes from the way east. So there's Eastern, that's like Greek and all those people. Then there's like the way east, which is like Ethiopia, Syria, Armenia. And the way east, they're a lot more because they didn't have as much of a like systematic philosophical development as the Eastern Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodox and Catholic Church. They tended to focus heavily, or their developments tended to focus heavily on like experience and mystery, and really just like circling around there. And that is what drew me to mysticism and orthodoxy in the first place, is seeing that there's a tradition of people that have this way of engaging with God at the center. Wow, I am already 8 minutes in. One of these days I will learn. Today is not the day though. So I came across that, and I didn't just want to like be reading about these people online. I wanted to actually start engaging with the work that they produced. And so I started like looking up some of Isaac's work. I think two of the major ones that I saw were Hymns on Paradise and Hymns on, I don't remember the second one because I just focused on Hymns on Paradise. I think I did. I genuinely, like, I don't remember. It was two. I think it was Hymns on Paradise that I focused on. So then I went to search up like where I could find like this book in audio form so I could listen to it on my commute and stuff. Came across this podcast that basically talks about it. And that's what I was listening to on the drive here that made me want to be like, I need to record, because I was having a lot of thoughts and reflections as I was listening to it. And so basically, the topic of this video is I'm literally like I'm driving and I'm talking and I'm trying to formulate my thoughts all at the same time. I'll be at school in like 3 minutes. The topic of this video is the ascetical, mystical, there was a third one but I don't remember, I had it in my mind, basically, but essentially the ascetical, mystical, experiential, maybe mystical is experiential, let's just go with ascetical, experiential way of Christianity, or stream of Christianity. These things like just make a lot more sense when they like first come into your mind and you don't have to explain it to anybody or like remember anything. But okay, so I'm realizing that like in this journey that I've been in over the past year and a half, it's been me trying to find this home that I can engage in with my faith in a way that I have historically and that has brought me a lot of the like realizations that I have experienced, because I don't have anybody in my life that engages with their faith in this way. Most like when you start learning, when I started learning about like theology and like different church traditions and stuff, I start realizing how people engage with their faith. I think before, like being in campus ministry, it kind of felt like, oh, we all engage with it in the same way, but being away from that, having a long period of just like isolation and engagement with my faith in the way that I do, and then re-engaging people slowly, I really do start to see like how different people, and especially learning about the historical influences on Western Christianity specifically, I started seeing like, oh, you are aligned with this way, you're aligned with that way, you're aligned with this way. And while I can still engage to like an extent, there's just I think a lack of synergy maybe, or symbiosis in some of the ways that I'm used to like seeing people engage with, in the ways that I, especially where I'm at in my faith right now, where it's like I'm rebuilding, I'm finding my grounding again. I really need to be in an environment that is at home for my spirit and how I have engaged before. And I haven't found that. It was one of the reasons why I started going to the Orthodox churches, because I thought that I would find that. But even within the Orthodox church, this way of engaging faith is one of multiple. I would say it is more towards the center than like other traditions, because monastic life historically has been at the center of like the Orthodox faith. But even within the monastic life, and this is one thing that the guy on the podcast was saying when he was talking about Isaac compared to like other monastics and desert fathers, was some of them tend to focus more on the practices, whereas Isaac focuses a lot on like the experience of love of God, and that being the transformative power and not just like the practices only. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, everything that he's saying, I'm like, yes, you're reminding me of things that kind of have just like gone to sleep in my mind. And I was thinking like, why, like, because that's not just unique to like the desert fathers. Like any denomination that you go to, there will be people who are so focused on the practices that they they kind of miss the heart and the transformation that we're supposed to be experiencing and meeting God in the practices. So then I was thinking, I was like, asceticism is not piety, it is the doorway to meeting God. And you can't measure somebody's like experience of God based on like how they engage with the practices, because it's like, and yeah, you can't measure someone's spiritual maturity based on how they engage with the practices. And this is one reason why I really appreciate monastic, maybe the word is monastic, no, but I think that's why I said ascetic. I don't remember what the third word is, I'm just gonna go with that. But I think that's why I really appreciate the ascetic / monastic tradition, because it's like everybody in the monastery is doing the same things, or at least they should be doing the same things. And while yes, people like even in the monastery, people can try and make themselves seem better by doing like praying longer than other people, fasting more intensely than somebody else. I think one thing that I appreciate that I've seen so far from like learning about different saints from monasteries is the importance of balance. The importance of balance, because again, it's not about what you do, it's about how what you're doing is shaping you. And also the fact that, bro, we're all doing this. Like, being ascetical is the baseline to experiencing God. And I think for Protestant, being ascetical would be things like what's the word? I'm at school. Let me just park the car. Okay. Being ascetical would be things like not drinking, not having sex, not sinning, basically, the way that probably we understand or would describe like what a sin is. Being ascetical is don't sin. Whereas I genuinely, sorry if this doesn't make any sense, I don't know what I'm saying, but whereas in the monastic life, it's not just like not sinning, but then you're also doing other things, like you're fasting, you're praying all the time, you're wrestling like with the things that you're struggling with. Struggle is just a natural part of the Christian life, and we should not measure ourselves and our progress and our maturity based on the external struggle that other people can see. because it's all about, I think yes, that was the third one. Okay. Ascetical, ascetical, experiential, contemplative. I need to find another word for ascetical that makes more sense to people, but ascetical, mystical, hesychastic. Ascetical meaning struggle and intentionally abstaining from things that we would normally that we would normally engage in regular life. So food, fasting, sex, celibacy, even like just daily activities. You could abstain from media, so like no music, no TV shows, no like social media. You could abstain from engaging in certain like social events. You could abstain from having certain conversations or certain relationships, just like a general abstinence from the world. So that's what asceticism is. You can say abstinent, yes, okay. So the more common language, so we have ascetical, then we have mystical, which is basically experience first. And I know that can be like for Protestants, especially theologically inclined Protestants, because it's like, how do we know that your experience is actually in line with like what is true, and how do we know you're not having like demonic experiences and stuff like that? But I think it's important that ascetical is first, because the doorway to experience is abstinence. The doorway to actually experiencing God is restraining yourself from things of the world, so that basically it's like decluttering your mind, removing all of the extra stuff so that it is easier for you to see. Decluttering does not automatically mean that you see, because your eyes can still be closed, but you remove all the stuff that makes it harder for you to see, and then the path to seeing becomes easier. Or like, let's say you're walking on a path, you remove all the stuff that would make it harder for you to walk on the path, but you still need to walk on the path to experience God. So that's what the mystical part is actually experiencing, like experience first, and not like systematic theology first, or like thinking first, or talking first, or even doing first. It's like your primary goal is to experience God and to know him by experiencing him. But the way that you experience God is by engaging in these abstinent / ascetical practices. And then the third one is hesychastic or contemplative is what I would say. Hesychia is the tradition of inner prayer or prayer of the heart from Eastern Orthodoxy, or if you want a biblical reference, the verse that Paul says, pray without ceasing. That's essentially what it is. But it is this constant awareness of yourself in relation to God, of the things that are happening internally within you, of what's happening. I think because you're aware of what's happening internally within you, you're then aware of what's happening like in the world around you and with the people that you're around. But constant awareness, constant seeking God, constant like dealing with everything that's going on in you and asking God for mercy. So the Jesus prayer, which is the center of the hesychastic tradition, is, Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. You could spend a lifetime trying to understand what that means, but basically they believe that that is the synthesis of what the goal of the gospel is. And if you continue to pray that prayer, you continue to meditate it, you continue to see it in every aspect of your life. And as you're doing the struggle, the abstinence, as you're fighting like within yourself, that is how you then experience God and you see God. So my Christian tradition is that the ascetical or abstinent / struggle, mystical or experiential, and hesychastic or contemplative stream. That is me. Why did I want to say that? I don't know. I think I just want to get on here and say it. And somehow I've been talking for like the past 20 minutes, but I think I just wanted to like articulate that, maybe just for myself, because I've been looking, even though like I've known it's been mysticism like since I encountered it, but I've been looking for a place that I can go to engage with people that have this same perspective. And I've been wandering for like a year and something now, and I do like, I'm remembering that I find my home within like this specific tradition. And now it's just like, okay, where do I go to experience people who live like this? A monastery, most likely. But I'm not gonna join a monastery. But if I want to engage with people in the monastery, obviously I can go and visit, but there are things within the structure of like the Orthodox Church that allows you to engage it like outside of the monastery before you go there. And so yeah, maybe I will talk a little bit more about like that tradition as I'm talking about Christian theology, because honestly when I'm talking about Christian theology, that is likely what I'm going to be talking about. And then maybe some like philosophical things as well. Like one of the first videos I made was about like the philosophy of the resurrection, and that being the foundational philosophy of Christianity. But yeah, I think there's a lot of life to be found, but I think life is found in not just engaging with Christianity this way, but engaging with life this way. And this type of engagement is not unique to Christianity. Mystical tradition is not unique to Christianity. It is across all spiritual traditions: Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, indigenous like beliefs. They all have like this mystical stream that is focused on abstinence and struggle, experience, and contemplation. But I believe in the resurrection of Jesus, so I'm a Christian, and that is why I am here. But what I have seen, because when I was really like researching a lot about mysticism, and I realized that like it is across all different spiritualities, I wanted to understand like what exactly makes Christian mysticism unique, because they actually all seem very similar. They seem to produce very similar results in those who engage with them, no matter where they're coming from. And it seems like the unique thing about Christianity, one, it's grounded in a historical event, the resurrection of Jesus, and those are the types of things that you're going to be like reflecting on. The Jesus prayer, of course. Those are the types of things you're going to be reflecting on and meditating on, and that the ascetical life is structured around. But it really does seem like the difference, which is again the center of Christian theology, is this idea that not just that God is love, but God loved humanity so much that he became us to commune with us and to reconcile with us. So it's like the depths of love, because you could even claim that in Muslim mysticism, which is Sufi mysticism, they have a real emphasis on the love of God. But they believe that God is separate from human beings, and that God is, although that you can experience God, he's distant from human beings. Whereas the core of Christian faith is that God became us. He became a man and experienced what we experienced, suffered death for us, for love of us. And that being the ultimate like expression of love. Not just that he loves us from a distance and we can try and reach that love, but he came down to us and expressed his love by becoming us and going through what we go through. And that's the main difference. And it's like a core part of like becoming is not the word that I'm looking for, but a core part of becoming in mystical traditions is, what are you meditating on? What is the thing that you are meditating on and that you're constantly like focusing on and repeating in your mind? In Buddhism, it's detachment. You separate yourself from the things that are around you, and that is kind of like the height of Buddhism. That's how you reach enlightenment. That's how you break free from the cycle of reincarnation. I think they believe in reincarnation in Buddhism. Is you detach from the world. Whereas in Christianity, it's the complete opposite. You detach through like the asceticism and like abstinence, but the height of it is union. The height of it is union. You become united with God, and in becoming united with God, you become united with everyone and everything. You become united with creation. So the goal of it is coming together. You come together by separating from things that can distract you, but ultimately it brings you back into like communion with everything else. So it's like, yeah, I think that's kind of like the biggest thing that I came across is it looks very similar. Like, what's the difference? Like, what's the difference between someone who is a Buddhist mystic, a Hindu mystic, Muslim mystic, indigenous mystic, and a Christian mystic? And it's, what is the meditation? What is the thing they are meditating on? What is the thing they are focusing on? And we as Christians, whether or not you fall into this ascetical, mystical, hesychastic branch, the thing that we should always be meditating on is the truth revealed in the incarnation. And the incarnation not just being Jesus being born like as a child, but the incarnation is the entire life of Jesus, from the Annunciation to Mary, to his birth, to his life and his ministry, his death, his resurrection, and his ascension. Jesus' entire earthly life is the incarnation, and that is what our meditation is focused on, in understanding the union of man and God and Jesus, and what that means for us, because that is our goal. In Orthodoxy, they call that theosis, which is becoming one with God, as Jesus modeled for us. So yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, introduce that, and maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more as I continue recording these videos. I hope this wasn't too confusing. I didn't really have any progression when I started. I was driving when I started, like I was mid-drive, and I was like, oh, I just need to like talk about this and get this out. But yeah, I'll say it in two ways: the ascetical, mystical, hesychastic tradition, or the I like struggle more than abstinent, because it's not just about, prayer is a struggle, but I would also say prayer is contemplative. So okay, we'll go the abstinent, experiential, and contemplative tradition. So two ways of saying it. Yeah, and we'll be talking about that more. I think that's it. I need to eat lunch, and dude, it's already 2 o'clock. I have class in 2.5 hours. Anyways, thanks for stopping by. Until the next one.